The story you're about to see is that of one of today's Major League Baseball greats. How does a lad grow up to be a great baseball player? What was his background? What's he like today? These are all questions that we'll answer in the next 30 minutes. The setting is Cincinnati, and the story is best told by the ball player himself. The Cincinnati Kid, Pete Rose, as told by Pete Rose.
I tell you, I like Cincinnati as a town because it's a small town and the people are friendly, and it just seems like, I like a town where, you know, you go to L.A. or New York, they're nice towns, the people are nice in those towns, but, you know, you get lost in the shuffle, and I just like Cincinnati because it seems like in Cincinnati, everywhere you go, someone knows you. The people of Cincinnati have been so great of fans, as far as I'm concerned. I wouldn't want to play in any other town, and I think that just they're good baseball fans, and they know baseball, and they come out, and I just like to see a pennant. I bet the enthusiasm around the community would really be great. I think the first one I remember is, well, they had a big tree out in front, and eventually we cut it down because it just got so old and it just had to be cut down. But we used to always play in that tree when I was a kid. We used to always climb up that tree. But I guess I remember things when I was smaller. Now I think other than that, I remember right across from Charlie Tavern there was a football field where my dad used to play, and I used to be the water boy. That was a long time ago. And right around the same time, I was ball boy for when he used to come up to Christ Church to play basketball for the 5th Third team. And we used to go out Deer Creek when he played softball for 5th Third. And I used to be the bat boy out there. You know, Deer Creek's now an expressway.
I think if somebody would have asked us when Pete was born what our choice would be for him, and given us a choice of maybe eventually being President of the United States or President of General Motors or a Major League ball player, I think his mother, and if Pete would have been able to talk, and I know I would have, we'd all three said that we'd like for him to be a Major League ball player. I guess he'd be about 4 years old when I got his first ball glove, and hardly able to put it on his hand, I guess, but I want to get him started as early as I possibly could.
April 14, 1941, 11:45 on Monday morning, St. Mary's Hospital, almost 10 pounds. I was really thrilled to death for his dad, really. After 2 girls, but he sure wanted a boy. I never missed a football game when Pete played and when his dad played. And he used to bribe me. Mother, we're playing a tough team today. Really tough, you say. For every touchdown, will you give me $1? I used to give him 50 cents. And then this day, it was going to be a real tough team. Yeah, I'll give you $1. I remember that one day he ran 5 touchdowns. I owed him $5. So, you see, he had money on his brain at that age.
We used to have a little ball field up in my backyard where my sisters and my brother and I used to play, and all the kids in the neighborhood would come down and we'd play, and used to use rocks for bases. But my dad always had a bat and a ball and some gloves for us. I remember that. And we had a basketball rim up in my backyard, and we used to break my mom's windows all the time. She threatened to take the ball away from us every other day, you know. But as soon as my dad got home from work, he'd talk her out of it. But, you know, I just was raised in sports like that, you know. Everywhere my dad went, he took me with him, and I think he just grew up into sports, you know. I mean, I didn't never have the desire to want to work on cars or want to be a salesman or nothing. I just was always sports-minded. Everything was sports. Yeah, we used to have 10 or 12 kids up there. Well, my cousin Lois Laycock would come down, and Jimmy Van Winkle and Kenny Rudisil and different fellows like that. That we used to always just play, you know. It was a real small field, see, and it was so small though that I was so little. I mean, that if you hit a ball there was a big a dump like out behind left field. And if you hit it over the dump, he was out. See, and now it's like a pop fly to hit that far now. But when I was little, I couldn't hit it that far. Yeah, now I can hit it over the dump. Everything I played, it seemed like I went up to Bullface Park. The first year I played was when I was 9 years old, and I played for a guy named Herbie Brinkman down for the Shenandoah Civic Club. And that was Class C. They don't have Class D like they do nowadays. See, I played down there Class C, and then next year I played Class C again for Don Grodehouse. Red Grodehouse is his name, and slugged the wire, and that's where I started switch hitting.
When they wanted him to play on knothole teams, the manager would come to me and ask me if Pete could play with him, and I'd say yes, but I'd like for you to agree to one thing, and that is if there was a right-hander pitching against you, you would leave Pete bat left-handed. And I said, right now, as little as he is, he's not going to help your ball club very much at this stage, but if you don't want him on that basis, that's perfectly all right. I can understand it, and we'll see if we can't get him with some other team that will accept him. And they'd always say, oh, no, we don't care. We'll let him bat left-handed. We want him to play with us. Now, I didn't know at that time whether he would ever develop into a pretty good left-hand hitter, but it looks like he has developed.
I was always a catcher until I got up in high school, and I just was too small to be a catcher in high school. I went there as a freshman, right? I went there in the 9th grade, and I played football and baseball and no basketball. I remember when I was 14, 15 years old, I was boxing under 112 pounds. I fought a guy named Virgil Cole, and he beat me a split decision in 3 rounds. Yeah, I remember when Dave used to, he was from Sailor Park, and he used to have a little radio station that he made up himself in his garage. And you'd be surprised how he had the antenna, and people could pick him up around Sailor Park. And I remember every Friday after the football game, we used to go down there, and he'd be playing records, and he'd get us on the air and start talking about the football game.
He's hustled ever since I can remember him. He was always running. Teachers used to stop him in the halls during classes because he used to run between classes. He was quite thinner, but he was always athletic. I think Pete's going to go down as one of the best baseball players in the history of baseball.
I'm sure at that time he wanted to be a disc jockey too, and he's made pretty good as a disc jockey, and I made it as an athlete, so you might say we both accomplished the same thing we were setting our goals to. I think the big change in my baseball career came when I was in high school and playing for Mr. Knorr, and then after high school was over, I played for Eagle Savings and Loan, which was Cliff Polking and a coach named Fred, and I think that just they made me realize even more than what I did that at practice, you'd have to practice to be a good ball player. Mr. Knorr moved me to second base. But I figured I was too small. We had a pretty good catcher. His name was Dick King. He was a pretty good catcher. The pitchers were always big to me because I was always small. Oh, he was great. He's had so much success. He's probably the leading coach in the country as far as putting major leaguers in the big league baseball, putting high school boys in the major league baseball.
Well, the first time I saw Pete was when we had a meeting as he came in as a sophomore. Pete wasn't doing too well scholastically, and I told him at that time, I says, Pete, let me see your report. And I says, Pete, if you're Babe Ruth, I couldn't play you. And I do think, and maybe Pete will admit this, I think it's one of the things he wanted to play football and baseball. I think it's one of the things that got Pete straightened out. It wasn't that Pete couldn't do the work. It's just that he didn't have the desire to do scholastic work as he had the desire to do athletic field. In the beginning, Pete didn't do as well as I never didn't think at that time Pete would be a big league player now, and I'm glad I was wrong. But Pete came along tremendously, and he played 2 years here. And he played in 58, 59, and Pete did a very fine job, and he was always willing to learn. I look back at Pete this way. I've cited him as an example 150, 200 times, the younger boys. Now, Pete, if we had some of the desire that Pete has, we'd have a heck of a lot better teams right here at Western Hills right now.
I wasn't too interested in grades. You know, all I was interested in is you might say I just hung on enough to stay eligible. I didn't, you know, I was good in certain subjects and bad in other subjects, but I just always wanted to be an athlete. So I just decided to play baseball after I was a senior in high school. I was playing for Lebanon in the Dayton AA Amateur League, and at the time I signed, I was 25 for 50 in that league. I was batting 500. The last game I played, I was 5 for 5. And I got out of high school on a Friday, and I signed a Saturday morning after that. And I left the next Monday to go to Geneva, New York. My Uncle Buddy represented me. He didn't represent the ball club. We went to Crosby Field and met with Phil Sagi. And we sat down and talked for about a half hour, and finally come to terms and asked me if I want to wait till next year. I said, I'll leave right now if you can give me a plane ticket. And I waited 2 days till Monday, and I left. I was never on a vacation in my life. I never left the city. And that was because my dad didn't believe in tying up a Little League program, a Little League coach, and then all of a sudden taking off for 2 weeks during the summer and letting him hung up without a catcher, without a second baseman, so he never did take me on vacation during the summer. Well, I think one thing that made me wake up was I got two sisters and a brother, and all of a sudden, you know, the Reds put $12,000 up in front of my nose. You know, I always did have what I needed, but then I had money enough to buy me a car. The first step of a dream come true. They tried to make it clear to me that I'd have a tough time up there because everybody else has had spring training and they've been playing every day and they're so much more advanced than I was. But I hit 277, which wasn't bad, and I played pretty good ball. The people, I only played 80-some games, and the people voted me the most popular player. When I went to Geneva, I moved Perez out of second base. They put him at third, and they put me at second. And Perez was having a pretty good year. And Shamsky was up there. He's with the Mets now. The next year, I went to spring training, and I ended up at Tampa with Johnny Vandermeer. 63, I went to spring training on an A roster, and I made Cincinnati, and I signed my big league contract a day before opening day. Rookie of the year in 63. Yeah, I got a little girl, 4 years old, named Fauna. I met my wife. She was on vacation, and one day I was up River Downs. She was watching the race, and I had a pair of binoculars, and I saw her in the binoculars, and I had a buddy of mine with me and knew her, and he introduced me to her, and I called her up the next night and asked her to go out. I called her at work the next day, and she didn't go out, so I called her up the next night, and then we went out that night. I invited her to go to the game. She went to the game, and I took her out, and I just started taking her out. If I do have a son, I hope he's got the desire that my little girl's got.
What'd she like to be?
What she like? She's just husky, and she's got a lot of basal metabolism like I do. She's got a lot of energy. She's got a lot of nervous energy. I think that's one reason why I hustle so much, because I think I have a lot of nervous energy stored up inside me. You know, you can make anyone hustle for a week or maybe a day, but it's pretty tough. If it's not in someone to hustle, they're not going to hustle.
When I was introduced by a friend of his that knew me, and they had said, Carolyn Engelhardt, this is Pete Rose. And I thought, gee, his name sounds familiar, and I thought, gee, I've seen this big smile on this guy, you know, and I thought, well, I think I know you. I said, don't you play football for a local tavern?
I think whenever you're a kid growing up in high school and you see a custom coupe or something, you like to have one like that. And I've seen many of them I like to have, but I never did have the money to get, you know. And And I got one now. It's pretty nice. It's a 34 Ford, and it's got a Chevy engine in it, and it's got all roll and pleat interior and everything. I'll probably drive it around in a couple of years and give it to my brother when he gets out of the Army. He got drafted. I like spring training. I think spring training is good. I don't think that I need as much spring training as most fellas because I try to keep myself in shape throughout the winter. But I do like to be in spring training. You know, when you play with guys, as many years I've been playing with the guys, it's really, it's like a home-warming thing when you get to see all the guys again. But I think if you don't need spring training physically, that spring training is good mentally, because I think when you have a chance to win a championship, you should get everybody ready mentally along with being physically. Like myself, when I go to spring training, I like to just get to know all the players. We got a lot of new ball players in camp this year, and I like to get to know them all and be friends with them all and different things like that. And I like to get momentum going in spring training. I like to win as many games as I can. As they say, it don't mean anything to win games in spring training, but I think it does, because if you get in the habit of winning, you're going to carry it right into the season. And you know, people say, oh, well, a lot of pennants are lost the last month of the season. I think a lot of pennants are lost the first month of the season. Just like this year, Atlanta's going to be a tough team in our division. But spring training, if you go down there, and mess around, you need 6 weeks of spring training. But if you go down there and bear down when you're out on the field, and all I have to do is get myself in shape, is get my arm in shape, and get my eyes adjusted to the ball. I've liked all my managers. I've liked Hutchison, I liked Sisler, I liked Hefner. I get along with all my managers, and Bristol is just great because he just lives and sleeps and eats baseball, and he just it just drives him nuts when the game's over, because he knows he's got to go home. And it's just the way he is. I mean, he actually gets mad when the game's over, because he knows that he has to leave the ballpark. You know, he's like Judge Hall finds. He needs a penthouse at Carlson Field where he can sleep there. That's how much he loves baseball, and it's great to have a manager like that, because all the fellas got his respect. And well, you know, I'd walk through hell in a gasoline suit for it.
I first saw Pete Rose in spring training in 1961, when he had played a year at Geneva and then reported to our spring training camp. And Pete was all over the place. We were working all of our kids out down here in Tampa at the time, and you could see that this boy really liked baseball and was around it all the time. First one at the clubhouse, and he'd always be out on the diamonds getting extra hitting or taking ground balls at second base. He was all over the place. That's my first time of seeing Pete Rose. And in 1962, he joined our Macon club in spring training and was our second baseman in 1962, and had a real good year in the Saddle League at 334. Pete's always livening things up. He's always got that ready smile on his face, and he thinks a lot of baseball and talks a lot of baseball. And around the clubhouse now, or on the planes, or in the hotel lobbies, you can always strike up a good conversation about baseball. And I tell you what, the guy is always thinking about and trying to catalog the different pitchers in the National League, the ones he has to face. He knows them, and he really makes a study of it. And this is what makes him one of the better hitters in the National League. And he can adapt. I think switch hitting has really been one of his big forts. Plus the fact that Pete has been content to just get base hits and hit the ball where it's pitched, and not be one of the guys that go up and try to hit home runs all the time. He's well liked and respected on our club, and gets along well with the other players. And he's just 100%er. He's in the game all the time, and he's always trying to do something. If he's on base, his main objective is to get back to home plate as fast as he can.
Oh, I think the Cincinnati Ball Club this year, we've made some trades the past couple of months. We've strengthened our pitching staff, and I think we got as well-balanced ball club as any ball club in the league. From the top all the way down to the bottom, we got a great chance, but it's just putting it all together. Barring no injuries, I just say I think it's going to be us or San Francisco and win our division.
course, I want to see Pete go on and improve. I'm sure he hasn't reached his peak, and you'd like to see the Reds win the pennant and win a World Championship. And if Pete's lucky enough that he doesn't run into any serious injuries, I'd like to see him have a lengthy career, and if he, with what he could accomplish, eventually I would say that he might have a shot at the Hall of Fame.
I'd like for him to play as long as he can play. And I'd like for him to play with the Reds and not be traded. I'd like for him to play his whole career out with the home team here.
I think just as he is now, I don't think I want him any different. I hope that he someday, or I hope in the near future, that he wins a Triple Crown. Happy-go-lucky, yeah, he's a good boy.
Well, I would just like to be the best in my profession. You know, I like to be a guy. You know, this might sound big-headed or something, but you know, you get on airplanes and you talk to people, and they don't know who you are, and you say, "You heard of Willie Mays?" They said, "Yeah, I heard of Willie Mays." I just like to be somebody like that, and be a good enough fella, along with being a good enough ball player, to for everybody to know who you are.
Pete wants to be the best in his profession. That just about sums up his whole life. Charlie Hustle, as he is sometimes called, will be out at Crosley Field this summer trying to be the best in his profession. So go see him in this 100th year of the Cincinnati Reds. Be proud of him. After all, he is the Cincinnati Kid, Pete Rose.